This is Black Guy, White Guy Talking. I'm a black guy. I'm Elwyn.
I'm a white guy. I'm Zach.
And we became friends by talking about race and race relations. This episode was recorded on July 23rd, 2020.
So tonight we wanted to talk about COVID-19 as a pressure cooker. You know, basically we're all stuck in this pandemic now. And of course it means different things for different people. But it really, seems to make everything that much more intense in terms of, the way that we're, processing what's happening in our country and our states and our cities. Even just sitting down here tonight together, talking, probably, that conversation would have been happening maybe at a bar in Fishtown where we would have had a couple of margaritas.
And some tacos.
Some tacos. Yeah, don't forget the tacos. And just been relaxing at the bar. But that's not really where it's at now. That's not really smart. That's not really possible. Or if it is possible, it's like not wise. So, we're here in the studio instead,
We got our masks on.
minimizing our contact with others. And it's certainly something we think about. I mean, I know I definitely, I'm not wearing a mask when I'm at home, but I definitely wear one when I'm out and about, when I'm in stores, when I'm, going to be in densely packed areas. And, I think it's just making things so much more intense for people, especially, when it comes to thinking about race and race relations. Mm-hmm. And, some of the things that have been happening, we just had this layered thing happening, we had, 8 minutes and 46 seconds, reminding us of, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, Philando Castillo, Breonna Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a lot. It's definitely a lot. And I think that we don't want to misuse any opportunity to get better.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To connect more.
Yeah.
And I think that, when we really get down to it, we can't allow ourselves to be in a space where we're even thinking about misusing opportunity. I want to be responsible. I feel like all the things that you were saying are true. Like we have to change our lifestyle, but I also think that it's given us a way to, for me, find a way to be better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Because you get shocked first. This shit is
grow.
shock.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When it first happened, oh shit, I can't believe this shit is happening.
Just trying to process it.
Yeah.
Which is not easy.
It's not easy.
It's painful.
That's right. It's an emotion, and then you get frustrated because little by little the things that you can't that you used to do, you can't do them anymore.
Right.
So you're getting more frustrated. Then that turns into anger.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, because now you can't maneuver. There's a lot of uncertainty. You can't work how you used to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You have to find other ways. So it's all a process of adapting.
Right.
But it also is, when we think about it, that's really just, it's growth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And however you ever want to take it, it's like it's pulling you through. It should be serving as pulling you through a growth process because you're not going nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like part of that growth process is digging within and also looking back, and like trying to, unearth some things from the past. Like, I don't know why, but lately I've been thinking about boxing a little bit, and like, I in 1912, Jack Johnson, defeated Jim Jeffries, was a heavyweight champion of the world. Jack Johnson was the son of former slaves.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was, and he was very, very adamant about, pushing his success in the front of white people. He did not hold back.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he didn't care. He said what he wanted to for the white people.
Yeah,
he dated white women. He didn't care.
Yeah, so, that's right.
That was unheard of in those times.
Right, it was. And he had just a incredible rebellious and independent streak.
Absolutely.
And the stuff that he, some people would say got away with, the stuff that he did was brash and bold, and he had all the confidence in the world, even though he was a black man who was the son of former slaves.
Right.
Or I should say the son of former enslaved people. So
he was living. That was his version of COVID-19. You know what I mean? So he got. I mean, if you really think about it, a lot of restrictions. Can't do what you want to do. I mean, kind of like it makes you think about like
being a black man in 1912.
There you go.
Right. Makes you think about
and the fight. You know what I mean? The relevance is the fight.
Yeah, and that fight. There was an all-white audience, and when Jack Johnson threw the final punch and knocked down the white man Jim Jeffries, no one cheered. It was an all-white audience because they didn't sell tickets to black people to come in to see that fight, the most important boxing fight in the world at that moment in time in 1912. And what followed in that area was open race war, whites killing, lynching, beating blacks to death. And
him beating white people up.
And after that, Jack Johnson, right. I mean, he had to flee.
Yeah.
He left the United States. He left America. He went to Spain. And
tried to cut his pocketbook.
What a story, man. What an incredible human being to have that kind of resilience and courage. I mean, just stunning. It really is. I mean, it's nothing. His story is unlike no other, really. I mean, it's, and not even a black man, a dark-skinned black man. So let's be clear. There's a big difference there, especially in that time. And that times it was different. Like, dark skin, anybody, if you darker hue, darker, you have more restriction. Your existence is completely different than somebody that's lighter than you if you're dark. Right.
You understand? So that's I had to put that into context first. Because I know the difference.
Right.
I know I mean, I live it. I'm not a darker skinned black man, and I would I love myself and I love my skin, but I would love it if I was darker too. So,
right.
You know what I mean? It wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like either way. So, to me, but I also know though that I'm not, and I know it's a different experience.
But you also have pride in your blackness.
Absolutely. But I also I have humility because I understand that it's not the same.
Right.
A darker skinned black man is going to be treated differently.
Right.
Regardless of where he's going to be treated differently. His experience is completely different than mine. I can't say it's worse or better because I that's not what I am.
Right.
But I know that it's completely different.
Right.
The way that he or she would have to be viewed, or the stuff that they would have to take on is far more intense.
Yeah.
Especially in this country.
Well, you mentioned a word, humility.
Yeah.
That I feel like, we've had a lot of great conversations around humility, and I feel like, you've taught me things in terms of, humility and, your understanding in your own life for yourself.
I appreciate that.
Of that. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. And, I'm open to that. It's a process of learning.
Yeah, it's something that, to me, it's something that promotes growth. Talking to, you know what I mean? Like it's you, in order to, what it does is when you're humble, obviously to me that's like the opposite of being egotistical, having an ego. You know what I mean? Humble is like here, ego is here. You really are, when you're humble, you start off at a place where you can develop from. You leave yourself room to grow.
Right.
When you have an ego, you don't leave yourself room to grow. And you've maxed out.
Right. And I think it's a really important concept.
Ego's important too. Don't
sure.
Get me wrong,
no, it is. Yeah. But everything has its place. But I mean, thinking about humility in a time of COVID, I feel like that's a really important touchstone there, because, we're required every day, every part of the day, to have some kind of humility, and not being able to, living in a world that's very different than the world that we lived in a year ago, not being able to have some of the same opportunities and, freedoms. And also sometimes for folks dying apart from loved ones. Yeah. There's a lot of feeling of isolation, aloneness, and with that can come, emotions, sadness,
that's hard.
Anger. And that's hard stuff.
That's something we experience firsthand. That to me, just the thought of it, it's such a deep, dark place because we've had two family members pass away, and that's kind of crazy because you can't go to their, you can't go to their, you can't go anywhere in the hospital. You can't see them. When it's time for a funeral, you can't bury them. And that is like...
And those rituals are so important.
They're so important.
I mean, to be able to honor your dead.
Absolutely.
To, show respect and love for your loved ones, even if you had complicated feelings about those loved ones, because we're human beings and stuff gets complicated. It's not always easy. But at the same time, like, it's worthwhile, you know? And it's based, it's got to come back to the love, But not being able to go through... a normal kind of a memorial service or a funeral, or, not being able to say goodbye when someone's still alive. That's hard, man.
It has to be, to me, it has to be the hardest. I wouldn't, but it also too, at the same time, it builds a certain kind of muscle too. You know what I mean? Like we're building muscle.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
It does. We're building muscle as we go along this. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't care. It's not easy, but I don't know what's at the end of the tunnel, but I don't know if we're striving for something. Maybe we should be, because
maybe we should be striving for more humility.
Absolutely.
More love, more staying in the present moment as much as possible.
Right? Like doing that, like that should be it, because that is going to drive the connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the humility drives you. It forces you to be like, okay, let me get from off this high horse. Let me come down a little bit, and see what's really going on. That's really the important stuff.
And life is struggle. It's like no matter who you are, no matter where you live, everyone has their struggles. And you don't know what it took for somebody else to get up in the morning and do their thing. You don't know what kind of things they're going through in their own lives. So, it's always unwise to be too quick to judge, but just to, be open as much as possible.
Well, it's funny you say that, because you're right. We don't know what, we judge, and we don't even know what's going on in other people's lives. But before this, I don't even know if people stopped and took a time to figure out what's going on in their own fucking lives.
Right. That's a great point. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like people don't even people wasn't even taking the time. We got a chance to spend more time with our families. Right. Right. Even though we lose loved ones, but we are closer to the families. We're faced with truths that we don't want to face. Right. We have kids that we may not have been paying more closely attention to. We have to serve them a lot more. Yeah. Right. There's a lot of things that we've had to do, and a lot of that is reflection. All of that is humility embedded in that situation.
Absolutely.
And that whole thing, because you have to be faced with the stuff that you knew and the stuff that you don't know.
Right. Right. And absolutely. And what is the absence of that humility? Well, the absence of that humility is, anxiousness, angst, fear, hostility, anger, impatience. Yep. you know, and none of that stuff serves you. It doesn't serve anyone. And, you know, of course, I mean, you know, none of us are angels here. And of course, you know, I succumb to all kinds of emotions like anyone. But at the same time, like, you have to like pick and choose the ones that you really want to live your life by.
Right.
You know, and if you're living your life according to, you know, loving kindness and compassion for oneself and others, and it's got to be for oneself first, because you can't love somebody else more than you've developed your own inner sense of love and, you know, sustaining energy.
And then when it does that, it forces, when you focus on that, it kind of, you know, brings you or drags you into a space, you know, if you didn't want to be there, but if you do want to be there, then it promotes you into a space of contribution.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's
you know,
right.
you know, that's where we are now. You know what I mean? Like you said before, we wouldn't have probably been doing, you know what I mean? We probably wouldn't have been doing this. We thought about it. We talked about it.
We did.
We didn't act on it.
Well, yeah, we talked about it for more than a year before we started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now we got to a space, we you know, we went through the humility phase. We went through, you know, we're going through the humility phase, the anger phase, all of these phases.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we're faced with, what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be stagnant. Are we going?
Absolutely.
And this is the contribution.
Right. And I think that's the important thing to remember, is that life is not, there's no stasis. There's no staying the same. Everything is always shifting.
Right.
The terrain is always shifting.
Right.
You know, around you and within you. You know, that's part of the human experience.
I think so. And I think that, you know, it's so funny too, you know, and it's like, even when this thing first started, I think that there was a level of, you know, with everything, there's these saying things that go around that people say, you know, the media says stuff and then people run with it. You know, I know in the black community, the big thing is it was like, you know, black people, they're like, they can't even get this thing, or there's this thing where they was, you know, was saying that they have a less probability of getting it. And then after that, it's like, we are, you know, hold up, you know what I mean? Like, black people, a lot of us live on, like, in the city, and we're in close, you know, environments where now we have, you know, now black people have, you know, a higher probability of catching COVID. So it's like we're running with these narratives, and like you know, details are missing, mistruths, right? Things that are being said that are not really, you know, they're not factual, right? But even with all of that being said, it still comes down to, we all are mandated to wear masks. Right.
Well, I mean, I think,
now we all, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that there's not a separation of, you know, of people who are, have the ability to get more, or less deprived, or in a better situation, or less marginalized. I'm not saying that there isn't a distinction. I'm saying that there's a foundational feeling now that anybody can fall victim.
Yeah, true.
Right? So anybody, it can happen to anybody, regardless of what happens afterwards, if you get it and how it's being dealt with. The fact of the matter is, everybody's on edge about it to a certain degree. Everybody is on edge about it. And if they haven't been, they are becoming that way.
Yeah. I agree. And I also think that, you know, my favorite thing about COVID-19, and I think I only have one favorite thing about it, is that, you know, it put us here in the studio, you know, because
absolutely,
we very easily could have been like, you know, not just talking about doing this for a year, but talking about doing it for 2 years or 4 years or a decade, you know, and like, oh yeah, you remember that thing we used to talk about?
Damn.
But no, you know, we got pushed into the pressure cooker, and we said, you know, we can't go out and, you know, have a margarita like we used to.
Yep.
So what are we gonna do? Oh yeah, what are we gonna do? You know? And I think that, you know, people can find things like that in their own lives. You know, it doesn't have to be, it's not gonna be this for someone else, but you know, it can be anything. And hopefully whatever that thing is a thing that, you know, helps people to reckon with their own consciousnesses and think about things in a more involved way where they're recognizing some of the complexities in life and not getting lost in, these easy paradigms about this or that, good or bad, right or wrong. And that's especially something that can happen in an election year, when we have such a crazy, and I don't even want to get into it.
Yeah.
Because
it's easy to get into
political situation. I really don't want to get lost in
I feel you.
Political theater,
Yeah.
Which, is important as well, but it's just a kind of thing of its own. And, like we said before, we're not here to change legislation. We're here to have a conversation.
Yeah, we are. And I think that, which we're doing. And, it's easy to become removed from, what's real. But I think that the funny thing about all this shit is we still have this desire to be around each other physically, to be connected.
Yeah, we're social beings.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, we're not here to be locked in our homes and not have any interaction with each other.
Right.
Because it doesn't feel good. And I think a lot of that is a part of it too. Like, we need the interaction. And I know this is going to sound bad, but even when it's good or bad, you know what I mean? There's a lot of violence going on. There's a lot of crime going on that requires human interaction to actually happen. Right? People, and that's the part that it will probably sound bad, but it's the truth.
Right.
There is this need, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, to interact with others in a physical way, right? Like the Zoom isn't enough. I mean, even though it's changed, it's the springboard for our new kind of existence now.
Right.
It serves as a platform, literally and figuratively,
Zoom.
but you understand what I'm saying? But got to be thankful for it.
Yeah, no, I'm thankful for it. And I understand it's too much for little kids, for sure.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not a good way for them to learn.
They really don't.
No, I really hope for in-person instruction
Lord, me too.
in fall.
To be done safely though. But
you know what
I mean?
But it's to be done safely, and I hope I know a lot of people working on this. There's a lot of money being thrown in a vaccine, so I'm really hoping
well, we got
a solution that way, but we're here
that's
now.
Another conversation.
Right,
the vaccine conversation is a whole other conversation for me.
Right.
But absolutely. It's we got a lot downloaded onto us. We had a lot to learn. And it's like, I think it pushed me, gave me look, I don't want to, whatever's on the other side of this thing.
Right.
I don't want to go back. Words.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want to move
forwards. Yeah.
I don't want to go backwards and contribute to the bullshit, that was back there.
Yeah.
I want to move forward. So I think that was my driving. That's like drive. It's like it's something that's in me now.
Right.
And I think that's done the shaping. And even getting back to boxing, Jack Johnson was the only person, that back then. I mean, he was the shit. I love like what he stood for. You know what I mean? He's like, but Mike Tyson, he's another person that decided not to sit still during fucking COVID.
Right.
Like, he looking like a whole fucking animal out here.
Oh yeah.
And I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, Mike Tyson is like one of the people. He's like an idol.
Truth.
He's like an idol to me, man. I mean, Mike. He's probably the only person that I would ever we talked about this that I ever want to meet. Because
maybe we'll get him on the show sometime.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so, because he embodies every aspect of life, transformationally. You understand what I'm saying? But he was always, to me, even if he didn't know it or not, in the moment.
Yeah.
He was in the moment.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
His stuff, he's so raw. He's so in the moment, and just, lets himself, really go to deep places within himself when
Yeah.
he's speaking. He really finds ways to speak his truths and let himself, really get into it, and it's really admirable. I really like his work.
I'm telling you, like, it's just the progression. And letting it hang out there. There's so many people that talk about Mike Tyson and all this shit. Mike Tyson is smart as hell, like in his own way.
Right.
Like, he would say that.
Right.
But I mean, I think he's a genius. I don't think people look at him like that, but I do.
One of the things that resonated with me, one among many of things that Mike Tyson has said, is that, when he retired from boxing, that was really hard for him because that was his whole life in a way. Like, he had so much of himself, what he understood as himself, wrapped up in his incredible career as a boxer.
Right.
And I mean, that was, he had worldwide, some would say acclaim, some would say notoriety, and certainly everyone would say attention when he was, involved in his boxing career. And it's really cool to see how much work he's done and how much soul searching and connecting with other people he's done in his post-boxing life. But
we don't even know if it's post-boxing because he's training hard as hell. He's about to fight again.
Is he?
Yeah, bro.
Oh shit!
That's what I was talking
I had
about.
no idea.
Fucking right.
Wow. How old is he?
He's like 50 something.
Incredible.
He's a rock now.
Wow.
He's like, do you see?
I had no idea.
What? He's looking like he's 20-something years old.
He's about to fight again for real?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, bro.
That's wild.
He's going for it. That's why I was talking about. I said that's what I'm saying. During COVID, he was really
right.
You got to see him. I definitely.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
But he is in a space like right now. He's training, and he's putting out these series of little clips of videos. It's fucking scary.
Wow.
Like, it literally is.
Yeah.
It looks like his trainer.
He's a
is
fighter.
Scared of him. But I mean, I'm serious. He's backing his trainer down, hitting pads.
His trainer is scared.
It looks like I swear to God, like he's backing him down. I'm like, yo, Mike, and he's coming with the shit. Like, he's coming with it.
Right.
And I'm like, yo, this to me.
Right.
It's like, to me, what I think of?
What?
I think about when Mike Tyson first started.
Yeah.
He was empowered by his trainer, Customato. Like, that was like, he breathed power into him.
Okay.
Right? And that's what made him feel like a god. Right? So he was like, man, I can, and he was led by him. Like, this is what you do, boom, boom, boom. Anything he said, he lived by that.
Okay.
So to me, then when he died, it was obviously some polarizing things that happened in his life. He probably was in a space, and I don't want to speak for him, but probably in a space of feeling lost. But then, man, I think that this new resurgence of Mike Tyson, I think it's about him. And I think he's always struggled with that beast of an ego inside of him. Yeah. He doesn't want to, I think he understood how that caused rupture in the lives of people that he loved and cared about. Okay. But I think that he is, right now, I think that he's come to a place of redefining.
Yeah, and soul searching. I mean, he's so
fighting from that space is different.
So much more powerful.
It's so more because it's for him.
He is older, but it's
for him. Yeah. Like, now it's like he's redoing it, but it's like I don't have to fight from a place to ego. Right. I don't have to do that. This is me. I'm still a beast, but I'm fighting from this place of zen. Yeah. Like, this is me, and I can own all this. I can own all this shit. Yeah. I can own it. I can own my feelings. I can own what my motivation is. Yeah. I can own all of this shit and still bring it. Right. Still and maybe even bring it harder. We don't even know. But seeing those clips, nobody don't want a piece. Nobody even wants that. Man. They don't want that. Yeah, no. They don't want that. They don't want that.
No, I'm sure they don't, man. I mean, I also think, like, just the whole thing about boxing, not only Mike Tyson, but just the sport of boxing and, like, just sports in general. I mean, I know, like, you've been training a little bit and, like, for me, like basketball has always been life-giving, just after playing like high school and college hoops. And, just like for me, even now in my life, like getting on a basketball court and shooting hoops, it's so grounding for me,
Yeah.
And I know you feel that way about boxing in terms of not only the sport itself, but also the training that goes into it.
Absolutely.
You get to create that sense of zen for yourself in your own life.
Yep.
I mean, and that's the idea ultimately with sport.
Yes.
With any sport anyone chooses, whether that's like, rock climbing or tennis or baseball or football or basketball or soccer
Yep.
or whatever else, it's a way of coming into a kind of precognitive, like pre-language kind of a space where
And
you're connecting with your body, and
Yep,
also like letting body. Your, physical life, your action, speak.
Yep.
And not needing words in many ways. Like, obviously we use words in sports, but like there is this kind of primal, reconnection with, that ancestry we have of just survival and fight. And
because it's all you.
Yeah, it's all you, everything you can put into it. Yeah.
And that's, I'm so glad you started with the box analogy because, well, not the analogy starting with Jack Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because, even, speaking of COVID, it's all a fight, bro.
Mm-hmm.
This shit is a fight. You know what I mean? Like it's a struggle. We don't want to do it, but it's a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about Mike Tyson, he'll tell you, like that's not like his desire is because of what came with it. But you know what I mean? Like I'm sure in his heart of hearts, he would rather not beat people up. Right? That wasn't what he wanted to do. He was, he
didn't want to fight when he was a little kid.
No, he didn't want to do that.
He had to.
His environment bred that, but he just so happened to be excellent at it. And not even knowing it, like he is a natural fighter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The connection to physical fight and the figurative fight is just so obviously synonymous in word, but it's so connected.
Yeah.
For a fighter, like it means something more. And when people say a fighter, it means something. Like, Mike Tyson is a fighter. That's why he is winning now. He's a fucking fighter.
Right. And you can also say, somebody's got fight in on the football field or on the basketball court.
That's the same thing, right?
They got fight.
They got fight. Because they dealing with them. It's like everything.
Spunk.
Yeah. They know that,
listen,
I can't even, in their mind, it has to be mind over matter. Because they know that they can't even afford to let their body break down.
Right.
Because it's like, I can't even get hurt.
Right. I know on the basketball court, I always loved to play with passion. Now that was different from emotion. Like I didn't want my emotions to get involved too much. I wanted to stay cool-headed.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to play with just the force that I knew that I could bring.
Right.
And just having that feeling and going out there and giving it your all is everything,
How did that feel when you couldn't do it because of COVID?
It felt bad, I mean, I was used to playing until March of 2020. I was used to playing full court, running full court twice a week.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden just shut down, what we call dad ball,
Yeah. That was a party.
Yeah.
Big basketball.
Huge. And like, it's just such a gift to get to go out there and, run on the hardwood and like, just play hard and like give it your all and like not, leave it on the court and like just try to communicate as best as possible out there. And like, it's just such a good feeling.
Yeah, freedom.
Yeah.
Being free.
Mm-hmm.
That's your thing.
And that's what COVID has taken away.
It's taken
from
away
us in certain ways, in different ways.
Yeah.
And,
even watching it,
right.
Sports, you know what I mean? Like these guys can't even, I mean, they're
coming
playing
back
now,
but
But I mean, it's actually, to me, I know they get paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's also letting you know that it's really putting it into context for, paid sports.
Okay.
Like,
right.
Really. Because in a way, and you kind of look at it like that now a little bit, but if you look at how you looked at sports figures before then, like I said, even though they get paid a lot of money, it's a little bit different now, right? Because they're playing in a bunch of people yelling and shouting for them and rooting for them.
Well, they got the whole like synthetic noise sound effect thing happening too. Like all the different sports are playing with that. I don't know
They
if you
are.
heard about that, right?
I hear it. Yeah, I
and,
know.
and they have different approaches to it. And some people are putting out like the boos and the hollers, and the jeering, and some people are just putting out like the positive sound applause. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But
it's also, see, the thing about it is, but before that, before the crowd, think about the way it was more of a nostalgic feeling, but now they're not there, right? And they're still playing,
right?
Amidst all of this shit,
yeah,
right? So they got to get tested. And you just think about it. We're watching them from a distance,
right?
But they still, I don't want to say have to play, but that's their thing. They're still doing it,
right?
And they're in close contact,
right? Zion Williamson had to leave the bubble.
They still got to do this shit.
Right.
So it's not, you're not looking at them like, oh yeah, like you're still like, oh, they got paid a lot of money, but they're still putting it out there.
They still got to deal with it.
They still got to deal with it.
Absolutely.
And it's like they have to face the realities of COVID.
Right.
It's a real thing. Like motherfucker could catch it. They could get it. They could have an adverse response to it.
Sure.
They may, even though they work out all the time, you never know what kind of other shit could be triggered in their body, and they could, have the same fate as anybody else.
Right.
But the fact that they're out there and they still have to compete underneath within these circumstances, and then watching, there's nobody there no more. So it's a different feeling.
Right.
It's removed from the wealth and the money. Oh, they got paid that much. You're looking like shit. I don't even know if I would do that for that amount of money.
Right. And I think it comes back to humility during COVID.
There you go.
And the fact that like everyone's in their own struggle. Everyone is struggling in their own way.
I'm telling you, like it's a thing where, everybody, it's almost like it feels like on certain levels, like, look, this one thing that everybody can identify with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Starts with a C and ends with a D, right?
There it is.
Everything that people can identify with, it's that one thing that people are, that common denominator.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's what'll bring us back next week. We'll see you then.
See you then. Tune in next Thursday at 9 a.m. for a conversation about reparations. As a disclaimer, Zach and I don't pretend to speak for all white or all black people.